She got the right button. You got the right button. Hi, everybody. This is Erin.scott with you, and T, who's behind the camera there with you. And today I got a special video for you. Considering where we're at in this world, there's a tremendous amount of data that is out there that you're going to need to know. And everybody's going to need to know this because it's lost wisdom in history. And anybody who's a homesteader, survivalist, prepper, or just somebody who wants to plant a garden and wants to understand their connection to nature and their food sources needs to learn what I'm going to share with you today. So, because of the nature of the information world that we're in, I give all of you full rights to download this information and store it on your hard drive and keep it as like a blog book for yourself. And there's ways to do that. A little free software program called ClipGrab. ClipGrab is one way to do it. Very quick to install and very quick. Just copy the link in the address bar and put it in there, and away you go. You'll save it, and then just store it on a hard drive that's off your normal laptop, where you keep all your safe stuff taken care of, as well as any other of my videos. If you can find anything on my old hacked channel, please feel free to continue to download as long as it's available. I would like to get that channel taken down, but if as long as it's up, if you can go search through some of my videos, if you can find them, and I know it's kind of difficult with all of those other videos that have been dumped on there, please feel free to download them. Download any of my videos, anything that you think is relevant and will be relevant in the future. But for today, I want to welcome you to my homestead, and I want to welcome you to my gardens and my food forest, because I want to share with you some of the knowledge that I have. So I'm about ready to do this to you. Hopefully you've gotten the data dump by the time I'm done with you, because we're going to have some fun here, my friends. We're going to have some real fun. Anyway, let's start here, and we're going to walk around, and I'm going to show you a lot of the things that I've got going on. And in order for me to kind of cover everything, we're just going to walk and talk about everything that I've got, how to get it, how to keep it, how to propagate it, and whatever information I can give you on everything. So this is going to be a random thing, because it's the easiest way for me to go through and share things with you. So as you're coming in to my little area here that I've got cleared out, I have started planting everywhere. Okay? One of the first things you see is I was reusing some of these small trees, saplings, and I've got one of these fell off thanks to my cats. They like to use this as a climbing post. But underneath here I've got a grapevine. And if you come down and take a look at it, and why don't you zoom in here, it's early spring, and you're going to see that, yes, I have some flowers on this. Last year we got a few of them. It's just starting to grow, and this is a Concord grape. And as these vines get a little longer, what I'll end up doing is stringing them up and tying them up so that I can get it to grow up onto this framework and get it up off the ground where I can prune it. Now, here's the thing. You get one of these vines at your local nursery or Wacky World. We're not calling it Wally World anymore. We're calling it Wacky World based on all the behavioral stupidity that they've got. But what you want to do is this. You're going to let it grow for a few years until it gets bigger. But once you get it big, you're going to prune this thing every year. Okay? Every year you're going to trim it back to just the basic stems so that it can put most of its energy into its fruit development. So in the fall, when you cut these off, you're going to cut shoots off like this, little sticks, like this one. I might, when it gets out here like this, I might cut it off. All of these sticks you're going to take and bundle up, and you're going to set them in a 5-gallon bucket of dirt. And that 5-gallon bucket of dirt is going to be put somewhere where the bucket itself will not freeze over the year. Now you might could do it in directly in the ground if you want to, but if you're wanting to propagate this, you can do it by seed, but it takes a lot longer. And the easiest way to do is a stem cutting, and they will root in water or just plain dirt, however you wish to do it. And generally you do those rootings over winter, so all those little bags with the stems in them were done the following fall in order for you to buy them at Wacky World that spring. So propagation, you can do it with seeds. We have a wine sap apple tree, and it's one that I bought, but as we get to the other end of the garden area, there is a tree that T started from seed. Now it's going to take a lot longer to get there, mind you, but T started from seed back in 2011, and I'm rather impressed. It's almost as big as this, and hey, didn't y'all ever hear of Johnny Appleseed? He had it figured out. Alright, so I was clearing this area, and I left these stumps here, and I need to get them. But you see this? This is a wild grapevine right here. Okay, so this is where it comes out of the ground, and these are the vines that are coming up. Wild grapes will produce grapes as well, because once I cleared this, there was a few wild grapevines, and there were places under the trees where the grapes had fallen, and we had a lot of grape seeds that germinated, and we've been pulling them because we just don't want them growing everywhere because they will go crazy. Now I expect I'm going to be able to collect some grapes on them, the quality of which I don't know, but they're still edible. So if I've got a wild grapevine, if I do the same thing as I did with the store-bought one, or the cultivated or managed genetically from years and years of people making them, it'll still do the same thing. Okay, it may be a little different flavor, a little different size, but if I can control the energy into the fruit that's put into it, I'm gonna be able to get a different kind of grape off of that. Rock on, rock on. Let's take a quick walk over here. As you can see, I've got a lot of yellow flowers right here. And this is a big one I'm going to talk about. Many of you got to see me and T build this place last spring. And when we did this last spring, I told you I wanted a food forest. I wanted food so much, so abundant everywhere, so that I could walk out anywhere I wanted to, pull a leaf or something, and eat it. I got a salad right there. Okay, that's kale. That's Siberian kale, just in this case. Ooh, yummy. Maybe we should have had a salad. We had a sandwich. Maybe we should, salad. All right, so here's the thing. I scattered these everywhere, and as you can see, there's flowers way back here on the other side of the chicken coop, all around here. And that's a lot. For one, those girls are loving it. So let's see, come on over here, honey. There, there, there. So my pollinators are having a field day. Pun intended. They're having a field day out here. You can see them, and as well as some bumblebees over there. Okay? But this is what I'm looking for. This is a seed pod, and it's not quite ready and not quite developed. Let me see if I can get it open here. But these are your brassicas. And in there are going to be all the little seeds. They're going to be tiny little seeds. And they're not quite developed enough for me to, I just squished it. Anyway, later when these are done developing, they'll get hard and crunchy. And when you touch them, the pod is designed to snap when it breaks, scattering the seeds. It's disbursement. It's a survival disbursement. So I'm going to collect these, and that's a reason why I want all of them to go to flower. One, for my girls, and then two, I want the seed. When it comes to your brassicas, let's dive deep into the brassica issue here, because brassicas are like our dinosaur food. That's the stuff that's been around. Our kales, our cabbages, and all that stuff has been around. Most of your brassicas are going to have that little tiny black-brown ball seed. And the seed collection for all of them is going to be identical. All of them flower out just like you see here. Some of them are the first year, such as broccoli. Broccoli, that big head that it does, that's a first year deal. But most of your brassicas are your second year, so you're going to have to figure out how to carry certain plants through the winter, mulch over them, protect them, whatever you got to do to keep them so that in the following spring you can collect seed on them. Generally speaking, you want to cycle your brassicas so that you can attempt to do 2 seed collections, maybe a year, because you want to stage your seed collecting. This batch is going to be done in the spring. Now I've got a couple others, but they're probably cross-pollinated, and I'm taking a chance, and I'll show you that when we get down to it. Like I said, this is going to be a very in-depth video. So here's the thing, there's a lot of seed here. There's a ton all around over there, all around here, and all around over there. There's going to be a huge amount of seed. Now I'm not going to need all of that unless I don't know, decide to be a seed store in my local area, because I'm the only joker out there in this area that has that memory and knows what they're doing, maybe. Or maybe I sell the seed as sprouting seeds. I know you've had it before, little sprouts on your salad, right? You get enough of these seeds collected this way, then you have the ability to do sprouting seeds for your salads. So small seeds, little pods. We're going to have a whole lot of that in a lot of the different vegetables that we've got. The best way to collect those seeds is to wait until the majority of this is developed, and then it has had a chance to dry. Once you know that they're fully developed and you're ready for them to dry and mature, cut the plants down at the bottom of the stalks, turn them all up, make a big bunch of them, hang them upside down, and put them in the shade somewhere. Hello, little girl. Go on. They're really interested in us. And then you're going to get one of those Walmart tubs. Or you could do it in like a half a barrel like that or something. What you want is some kind of big container that you can stuff them all down in. When they're good and dry, that's when you're going to bust them up and bust all those husks or those pods up, and then seeds are going to go everywhere. And then you're going to use my gold panning method, and I'll have to get into that a little bit later in order to save those seeds. The thing about brassicas are you generally can only have one flower at a time because you want to maintain the genetic stability of a plant, so you're going to only want mainly one kind to go. Now I've got a couple of them, but because I'm trying to overdo it, I'm taking a chance at the cross-pollination of them. All right, let's take a look at something else. Oh, let's look at this right here. Let's look at this. This is a carrot, and it is in the same family as the wildflower called Queen Anne's lace. Queen Anne's lace puts a big white head flower, right? Well, when I was scattering the seeds, I threw some carrot seed in there. Now the ground itself is this hard-packed clay. I hadn't cultivated it like I wanted to with the garden area that we're doing, so I didn't get a carrot on it as much as I'd like to, but I am propagating some seed here by having it go to flower. The way that's going to work is you're going to get a flower head on that stalk like this, a big old white thing, and then it's going to turn into a whole bunch of little seeds and brown, and it'll clump up like this. You're going to do it the same way in a tub as far as the gold panning method. Now, like I said, we'll get into that later, but hey, I've got carrot that is going to go to flower. I'll be able to catch some new seed on it this year. Down here, and there's another one. See, there's another carrot getting ready to do a shoot. Down here I've got my starts for my goji berry. Goji berries are one of those superfoods, right? It is a very, very high dense nutrition, high vitamin C and all that superfood. And if you can get one bush and you want to create a whole bunch of them, you allow the one to grow, and then you're going to do the same thing with this as you did with the grapevines. This is another one of those plants that you can take a stem from it and root it. Now, the nice thing about this is you can take those stems and put them in a glass of water. You can also do that with the grapevine, but put the stems into the water and they will root out so long as you got enough of the stem under water. Around it, we have this stuff right here, which some would go, oh my goodness, it's a weed, based on the way that we've got it growing everywhere. But that's a medicinal plant that we just happen to have, and it's more like a weed than anything that you've ever seen, because it's everywhere. We brought it here and it is gone everywhere. But it's St. John's wort. What do you want on St. John's wort? The flowers. You pluck the flowers as you go, and after the flowers bloom, it is possible to collect the seeds, but it's a very delicate process because they're very small seeds. The easy way to propagate this is to actually take pieces of its root. Now I'm going to show you more on that when we get over here to the mints. Let's keep walking down here. What else do we got? Oh, there's another one. Last year I wasn't sure if my gojis were going to even make it because they leafed out, but because the ground got so dry, we lost the leaves and I almost couldn't find the stems. It's only here this spring that my gojis have taken off, and you can see some nice little shoots on them. So the next thing we got over here is some lavender. This lavender, it's been a hard one for me and T to keep lavender going. We've really, lavender likes its soil just right. Now I'm not going to get into every plant and every type of soil, but you got an acid soil and an alkaline soil, okay? And being in the oak forest, which was what these were, all oak trees, there's another issue. Nut-bearing trees excrete an enzyme that, in order for its defenses to keep other things from growing around it, will stop the germination and the growth of young plants and other things. So it had to fight that a little bit. This year, there's no deposits from the trees, from their roots and stuff, so it's growing very well. Back to the lavender. The lavender is going to put its little purple flower, and if you can time it right, and you have to kind of learn when the flower has done and the seeds are developed, and you got to watch the development of the seed pods. One technique, and I'm going to share that with you when we get into some of the herbs. We'll talk about the herbs over here, but you can collect the seed on it itself. Very challenging to grow that. Some people say that you can take a stem and root it. I haven't had the opportunity to make that work for me, but there's a lot of things. You can check out a bunch of different things. But the lavender, very great for your soaps, very great for tea. We make teas with lavender in it as well. Let's see, what else we got? This is a herb that I have chosen to keep around because of what originally was used for. Now we do a whole lot of things with synthetics, right? But before, when we would use plants for many different of our products. the things that we would create. So like cotton would be used for the clothing, for our shirts and stuff. But in order to get like the blue in her shirt and her jeans, this is woad. And woad, if it's cooked, I believe it's the leaves, if you cook the leaves of it, maybe it's the root, I forget which one it is, so don't hold me on it. One way or another, there's part of the root that you cook as you are running your fiber arts, your fabrics, and your cottons or whatever you're going to put through, or your animal wools, whatever it is that you're going to dye. That's for dyeing. Pardon me. Indigo, I think, is the color. Let's see over here. Over here we have three different kinds of beet that we have saved from last year. We're getting low on beet seed, and beets are something that we enjoy eating a lot. There's a lot of different kinds of beets, about 5 that we generally tend to propagate and eat. And this one right here particularly is the golden beet. So you're going to see it's more yellow, but in order to get seed, it's a 2-year plant. So you're going to have to keep your beet. Little girl, stop. In order to propagate it, you're going to keep the beet and replant it so that it can bolt, and it will bolt, and along the edges of the plant as it gets up there will be little spiky, thorny kinds of seeds. You know, they're not going to hurt, but they're if you've seen a beet seed, that's what you get. Similar technique for collecting the seeds is once these are grown, fully developed, you wait till the top seeds are all look like they're fully developed, and then you'll cut the stalks, hang them upside down, tie them up in a bundle, and let them completely dry. You'll put them in a bucket for the gold panning technique that I will be showing you again later. So one of the things you got to know about beets and your brassicas, your broccoli, cauliflowers, and all that, they are pollinated on the wind drift. So if the wind blows around, the likelihood, go on little girl, the likelihood that you're going to cross-pollinate is very high. So this is one of those things you're going to go from season to season in, all right, this year I'm going to do my golden beets. This year I'm going to do my my cylinder beets or whatever. So they try and keep those things from cross-pollinating in order to keep your not blood stains, your genetics, your genes. Come on, little girl. In order to keep your genetics. So I have 3 different kinds going, and I'm going to do my best to hopefully just get one. One of the things with the beets is they're also in the same family with chard. So if you're growing chard seeds and beet seeds are almost identical. The plants look very, very, very similar, and they will cross-pollinate. So keep that in mind. You don't want chard and beets going to flower at the same time if you want to keep your genetic viability. We got a big patch of strawberries here, and there's multiple ways that you can propagate strawberries. There's several different varieties. Your June bearing, and then you got ever bearing, and we got several different kinds here. Last year we bought one of those little packages out of Wacky Mart or Wacky World or whatever, and we had like 10 roots. There were 10 roots here, and last year after it took off we did not get very much fruit in it. And come on down here, honey. And what they started to do is this. They sent out runners. Okay, so here's a runner, and you can see at the bottom there's a little root. So it's going to propagate by sending out another plant and rooting, sending out another plant. And so these things are going to cover and crowd the ground up really, really well. But here's the problem. You've got to thin these from time to time so they don't choke each other out. Sharing strawberry plants should be a community joy. Oh, I got a bunch of strawberries. I mean, look at me. I could pull 20 plants out of here and not even hurt. Two ways that you can do it. The other is by seed. So come on in here, honey. Y'all seen strawberry? You can see we're starting to get some, and all those little specks of seeds that are on them, those are the seeds. So here's the deal. Last year we couldn't find everbearings. We want everbearing strawberries so we can get strawberries all year long. We only got the June bearings. So these are going to put on their fruit, and as soon as they're done for the year. And then we bought some strawberries at the grocery store, and T was processing them, and we fed them. We fed the tops and the pieces to our birds. Oh, well, what was it? That afternoon we turned them loose to go grazing so that the birds could graze. And guess what? The birds pooped the seeds out over there. So over there, all of these plants sprang up from the seeds just by happenstance. They volunteered. So I've got a bunch of these going, and you can see it's a totally different kind because this kind has a big tall stalk here, and a whole bunch of them that are coming off of them, as opposed to one or two hanging at the base. So we're not sure exactly which kind of strawberries they are. We're going to have to see how they are. Obviously, they were producing good strawberries. We bought them at the grocery store, we ate them, and then we took the seed, the tops with the leaves and the trimmings of the tops, fed them to the birds. The birds pooped out the seeds, and so we moved them over here. We're going to have to expand this because obviously these things are going to go everywhere, but the best way to do it is to get, see, this one's already rooted. See, it's already tied down and rooted right there. That one right there. That's the best way to do it. Oh, let's see what else we got here. Last year we had some basil. We had basil here last year, and there was a couple of plants here. One was a lime basil and the other cinnamon, or no, cinnamon and...
There was opal, dark opal, cinnamon, and lime basil over here.
All right, so last year there was a lime basil over there next to the tree stump as
That
well.
was the lemon basil.
That was the lemon?
Yes.
All right, so, and we had a wind hit it just before I could get a chance to collect the seed. Well, the wind in the thunderstorm blew all the seed all across the ground there, and all of those seeds germinated. I had a whole bunch of little basil plants before winter hit. But over here, if you look down here, I got volunteers from some of those seeds. So there's one there, there's one there, there's some over there, there's one all the way back up here where I'm at. And basil seed is fairly easy to do. What you need to be able to do, get out of my face there, red wasp. What you need to be able to do is get a clean, dry bucket and time it just perfect. When you see the seed pods starting to dry out, and you can check this, you know, it's flowering out, and it's got these little brown flower looking like things. I don't know, that thing's coming around you. And you'll see them, they'll start, you know, the flowers that were there start to dry and turn brown. At some point in time they become dry and brittle, and if you touch it, it will want to disperse its seed. So the thing to do is carefully get a bucket underneath it and kind of shake the leaves and let all the seeds, little black seeds, fall into the bucket. All right, let's see. Oh, the next thing we got here is mint. And I've got a bunch of different mints, and I think this one, based on the round leaf, I think this is our, yeah, this is chocolate mint. You taste that. Tell me, is that chocolate? Oh, you dropped it.
Where'd it go?
You dropped it.
I did.
You did. Is that the chocolate? I think that's the chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Chocolate mint. Yeah, well, I smell that. Now this one over here is peppermint. It's got a longer leaf. Chocolate is a little bit more rounder. And the reason you want, ooh, that's strong. The reason you want the mints, for one, the mints are good to have around the house because they put off the smell that keeps a lot of the bugs away. A lot of little crawling bugs on the ground. It helps significantly. Now, I don't have a full enough covering of them here at this moment, but they're going to grow. You can, a little girl flying around you, you can allow them to go to stalk and go to flower and collect seeds. You can collect seeds on them. They're very tiny, and you're going to have to pay attention to the flower as to its maturity as well, because you want it to fully develop the seed, and then you got to catch it before it drops the seed. So you can do that, but the easiest way to propagate any of the mint family is to get in here and find a shoot like this one right here, and you can see there's some roots on it. Pull it back, cut it out, and just take a portion of it, and it'll go on its own. I could get in here and I could break all of this up into about 20 or 30 different plants. What do you got here? We got the lemon catnip.
Yes, my favorite.
Oh, that's very strong lemon.
My favorite.
Yeah. Lemon catnip, great for tea, very good for tea. The cats don't like the lemon.
Yes, very good for me.
Yeah, very good for you, because the cats don't get in here and roll in it that bad. It can be propagated using the seed. You will get flowers. You can collect seed the same way you do with the basil. But this plant managed to make it through the winter without freezing. So it's going to just keep getting it on its own. Go on, girl, get out of my face. And for those of you who've been following and you heard what I said before, I thought we had lost this rhubarb, but we've got a couple itty bitty leaves. So like part of it died. Go on, little girl. Part of it died. Let me get this out. Got a weed. Don't want those in here propagating. So it died, but apparently just enough of the root is still going. So the easiest way to propagate this that I'm aware of, and there's another rhubarb down there, the easiest way that I know of is to divide the root. So as this thing grows, root goes everywhere, and at some point what you do is you find a shoot that's growing over this way and just take your shovel and cut it off and move it and replant it, and it'll do just fine. Now, it does put up a stalk. One of the things you want to know is you don't want your rhubarb, when it sends up that stalk to go to flower, you don't want it going to flower, because what that does is that signals to the plant that it's propagated, and frequently, not all the times, but frequently they will die. They'll die off. This did not go to flower, so that was not the situation in my part, but you do not want the rhubarb. And for anybody who knows what rhubarb is, it's rhubarb pie is what you get out of the stalks. Now be cautious, because if you don't cook it, it's poisonous, and the leaves are poisonous. So you only use the stalk, and then you cut it up, and then you have to cook it. Right here in the middle of me is the other one. Some of you saw this the other day when we were out here, and it had just started sending up shoots. This is one of my hops plants. So if you're a beer lover, you want hops. You need a hops flavor, and that's what gives you your IPAs, well, all your hoppy flavor in your beer. The way you propagate this is it sends out roots, and you're going to take a root cutting of it and transplant. I've got another one right here. Come on around this way, honey. At the base of this one, I've got some lemon balm, and there's a whole bunch of it in here. And this is here because that started from seed, because it was sitting next to that plant that was in a pot. So it went to flower, dropped seed in that pot, and that's how we ended up with lemon balm in my hops plant. Over here you can see I've got a very hodgepodge of my mints. So I've got some peppermint. This is orange mint. It smells like an orange. More orange mint. And some bee balm. This is bee balm. They're all in the mint family. Each has their individual flavors. Each has their properties. Those are things you're going to have to get into. One of the things that we want to talk about when we get into our herbs and mints and stuff is that there are certain things that like to get planted next to each other. It's called companion planting. As you're going around planting things, you might want to research this particular plant and find out what are the pests. What are the pests that tend to like that plant? Now the mints, very few insects like the mints. It's just not something that a lot of bugs get to except for the flowers. There are specific pollinators that like the mints. Your honeybees don't want nothing to do with the mints, but there's little black wasps that are pollinators just for those. So we all have our interlinking symbiont bugs and stuff. I mean, just like your gut system. Your gut system has like thousands of other bacteria that have to be there to help you digest your food. It all interacts and works together. Now, you don't see it yet, but back in here, in the ground, under the ground here, here's the leftover plants. That is my, watch out little girl, that is my ginger. So ginger is another tuber, and it's similar to in your cultivation as you would with a hops root or rhubarb root or something. You're going to separate the root because it's a tuber, a bulb-ish, not a bulb. I'm sorry, not bulbs are like your garlic and your daffodils. Those are bulbish, but it's a tuber, so it sends out more roots to continue growing the plant. So if you want to harvest it, you're harvesting the root. If you're going to propagate it, you're going to bring up the root and you're going to separate it and replant it because they get bigger and they expand as they go. Turmeric is another one. That's
over there at the
over there, and it hasn't popped up. It's a little early for that. Let's see, where we at? Over here, some more of that St. John's wort, and this big clump of St. John's wort was only a tiny little plant that came in with our chive pot. So our pot of chives that was this big, it only had a little plant there and we didn't get it out. And you can see just how much it has overtaken this area and how it's growing out here into the walkway. Very tough. Like I said, it's very easy to propagate if you just take a bit of that. Most gardeners don't like to have it in their garden because how quickly it can take over an area. We also have another kind of mint here. This long tall one. Oh, that's one of my favorites. That's our apple mint. Apple mint. And I've got some more peppermint.
And she forgot to tell you, this right here in our lemon balm is lovage.
Lovage. Yes, I totally forgot. You're right. I missed it.
Which is a substitute for celery.
Very good. Very good. So lovage is a perennial root. You put it in the ground and it'll keep coming back. I got an issue here. I do need to separate it from the lemon balm because the lemon balm is going to smother it out. At some point in time I need to move it. Mm-hmm. And it'll send up a stalk. And in the top of that stalk up here, it'll seed out, and the seeds look like almost like a cumin or a large grass seed. You know, kind of spiky, almost football-y shaped seed, and they're about that big seeds. And yeah, it's easy to propagate, easier with the root, digging up the root and splitting the root. Let's see, what else we got over here? I got some more random carrots that I'm going to collect seed on. There was another goji over here.
It's right there.
Yep, and it's still doing.
Just needs to be
sort
cleaned
of.
out.
One of them has died back. The bigger one is over here. This one's really doing nice. That's a decent size, getting there. And we want these things to get huge.
They will get taller than her.
Oh yeah, the ones we had in Montana were 12, 15 feet high.
Something like that.
Pretty high. But you want, because that's where the berries are at, way up on top of the shoots. Let's see, what else do we have here?
We got our fruit trees here. These are plums.
Yeah, plum trees. Yeah, and
these got frosted too soon. We had flowers on them, we had a frost, and they didn't do too well, so we probably won't get any fruit on these this year.
But you do need two different ones to pollinate each other.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, let's go down here. Down here, this was T's planting bed last year. She wanted to create something for the carrots. And you can see there's some leftover carrots here that are going to flower. They're going to be a big stalk, big head of seed that will come up on it. But the thing we want to look at here, I think, because we've already talked about the carrots, is the garlic. Now, garlic is a bulbish plant, and it has its cloves. Well, the cloves are what you're going to plant. So the time to plant garlic is in the fall. Now, you can do it in the spring. There's nothing saying that you can't. But that little clove really likes to build a good solid root base all winter long so that it can really go in the wintertime. And then here's something you got to know. This is called the garlic scape, or essentially it would be basically the flower for the head of the garlic, how it would reproduce. I'll show you that in the onions here in just a bit when we get over there, because the walking onions are starting to do that really well. But if you want a good bulb, if you want a good garlic clove, you cannot let this develop, because this is its means of reproduction. If this doesn't reproduce, then that has to grow and get big enough to split. So you want to split up your cloves and you put them in. And I believe we did these 4 rows with maybe 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. It was about that many. We'd break them up and then put them all in. Break one up and put it all in. So probably about 5 of them. If you want to eat a lot of garlic, which is extremely healthy for you, you're going to want a lot of it. This is not really enough for what T and I even do. We are just trying to get to where we are reproducing it. So as soon as this garlic scape gets up and curls, and we're going to wait for it to curl, that's when we're going to cut it. And then what are you going to do with it?
I'm going to cook with it.
What, the garlic scape?
Yeah.
What, you're going to just cut it up and
you cut it up, saute it, put it in with your burger or your spaghetti sauce.
Whatever you want to cook.
You saute it with your potatoes. That's what I do with it.
Garlic scapes are 1,000 times more potent.
They are much stronger than your actual
a standard
bulb.
Garlic clove. So if you like garlic, you're going to love garlic scapes.
I'll just eat it.
Yep.
I don't care.
All right, so down here, I've got comfrey. Comfrey is a huge medicinal plant of its own, and I'm just going to leave that as your own homework assignment. You need to look it up. Comfrey is something every homestead needs, and believe it or not, that poor little plant has survived in a pot in all hell getting from Montana to here for 4 years, from when we've moved over 4 years ago. So we've carried that one little plant, and when we had the hailstorm the other day, boy, it took a pounding. As well as this is the other rhubarb. So we did not think that we were going to get those 2 little rhubarb shoots over there. So when I saw it over at Lowe's had some plants. I said, that's it, I got to get some. So we got a new rhubarb plant. And so what you'll see when you want to separate them is you're going to have a whole lot of shoots like this, and you see the little button right there. When you start getting 3 or 4 of these and this thing spreads, you'll cut one off, and you'll cut one off of the main root complex. So there'll be a bunch of shoots like this, and you'll take it off and separate it so that you can have more, or sell them, or whatever you want to do. And generally the first 2 years you don't really want to mess with it. Ours had, that one over there was already fully grown, fully developed, and like I said, I don't know why we lost it, but we were getting stalks like this that were this big around. They were huge.
All right, what's in here besides the garlic and the carrots, I have sweet potatoes. So we got sweet potatoes last year out of here, and the vines were everywhere. And what little sweet potatoes that were maybe this big or maybe this big, I left them in the ground so they could propagate this year.
Well, you dug them all up.
There were some that I could not find.
And there were some that were
huge.
So we kept the big ones to eat.
Yeah.
And then the others we put in. And when we get over there, that purple one that we got, it's got its shoots up. So we'll have to take a look at that.
More strawberries.
more strawberries, and this was the everbearings.
Mm-hmm.
We just bought them, so it's going to take them a bit to get established and start sticking their runners out and growing.
And this right here is where the turmeric's at.
Yeah, the root.
Somewhere's in here.
Turmeric's down in there, and it should have, and it kind of looks like a banana plant.
Mm-hmm.
We also bought echinacea root, and that's down in here, but it hasn't popped up yet. All right, so let's see. Watch out for the.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you want to talk about what this is?
Our spear guts?
Our spear guts. Asparagus.
Our asparagus. So most of these asparagus are from the seeds that we got from Montana that were wild asparagus that were growing alongside of a road. So we just propagated the seeds, and this is what we got. She did buy some. Yeah, she did buy some, and we put them in. So we've got a full little patch of asparagus here. And if you
I
look,
added some new roots.
if you look,
The flowers.
if you can see the flowers, those will be your
Little
seeds for next year. They'll be little red balls.
berries. Little berries.
Balls, berries.
Balls, berries are tiny.
But that
And
will
the seeds inside will be little black seeds.
just let them hit the ground.
And let them hit the ground. Let's see.
And then this big sucker is our elderberry plant.
Exploded. This is all new growth. Look at that.
Look at the stalk on this thing.
I know,
This
that's
is huge. Look at that thickness.
Oh, and step over here. I want to show you. Show you here. Now, the way to propagate this. The way to propagate this is when they send out a runner. So come on down here. All right. So like this runner right here. You see, it was a root shoot that came out. And if I come back here far enough, I'm going to get roots on it. I can cut this off, dig up some roots, and take that whole section. But what I'm looking for, and we're actually going to get some, there's a little flower head right there. It's going to come out and flower. And then you can get the berries. We want the berries because they're extremely high in vitamin C. And one of the things that they're saying to use elderberry for combating the beer bug. But, there you go.
Elderberry's good in general.
We got a whole mix of different kinds of stuff here. Unfortunately, some of this is going to flower too soon. This is arugula, and it really hasn't done very well. I think the cold and whatnot has caused it to go to flower too quick. I don't want it doing that because when it throws its seed, I'm going to have to come in here and weed all these out. But we got a lot of different lettuce in here, and we got some kale. We got some Russian red kale here, and where is it at? This is moss lettuce, or fern leaf lettuce, fern leaf, and it's bolting too, which is kind of odd that it's doing it so early. But this has a little black seed in it, very much like the brassicas do, and I don't think it's in the brassica family because they can't handle the winters. It's very soft like the lettuce plants. So when these lettuce, they're all going to do the same, and they're going to put up little flowers. And lettuce is in the same family as dandelion. Dandelion and lettuce are all cousins, okay? And there's a little difference in the way they flower because dandelions put up a little flower and a little puffball, but when these shoot up a stalk, they're going to put a whole lot of little flowers, and you're going to let them bloom, close up, grow the seed, and then dry, and then you're going to do the same technique in your seed saving when it comes to the gold panning technique. And like I said, we'll get into that at the end of this. So those are going to come up now on your spinach, and we're going to be able to get some spinach here pretty quick. On your spinach, you actually have a male and female plant. One's going to come up, and you're going to see when it bolts into its bolt, one's going to have a lot of pollen on it, and the other one's going to have a lot of little balls or seeds along the stem. Very similar to the way the the beets do, except they're a little kind of spiky or irregular shape. These are actually going to be little round seeds. So you need both of them to pollinate, but you want to be careful with the spinach, because the spinach has this technique of dumping its seeds. So if you don't catch it at the right time, when it's fully developed, cut the stalk, flip it upside, let it dry, and hang it somewhere that you got something underneath it. What will happen is, you'll have a cold night or a rainy night or something like that, and it'll just say, okay, I'm done, and it'll let go of the seed, and all the seed will fall to the ground to stay till next spring. Or if you get a warm spell, it germinates, and then it'll get killed in the frost. So you gotta stay on top, and all of these for that matter, you're gonna have to stay on top of the stage of ripeness or readiness of the seed or the seed pod. And over here we've got some elephant garlic, and our elephant garlic is actually throwing up a head, and it's the same thing here. I'm going to need to cut the scape off of these in order to get the bulb to grow. One of these, however, I'm going to go and let it grow, because I've not seen, personally, have not seen a elephant garlic go to flower. So I'm going to let one go. The other thing that you can do is, you've heard of garlic chives. We've all heard of garlic chives. What a chive is just it's a seedling to start. So you could, if you wanted to, leave some of your garlic to go to seed, collect the seed on it, and then plant the seed back and have garlic chives. All right, let's see. Let's go over here. You can see I've got 3 different rows of beets and then 2 rows of potatoes. Let's talk about potatoes real quick, because there's a lot of information that a lot of people don't know about them. Yes, there are many techniques for growing them. You can watch tons of videos on it, but there's different potatoes have slightly different growing requirements, but I've got a mix. There's a different potato just about everywhere down these rows here, and what you want to know is, there's potatoes on your potato plant when you see flowers. Now, there's only one potato plant that will produce fruit for whatever reason, through our genetic modifications from years of growing them and saving these and saving those, as we have changed the hybrids, hybrided them to our, we'll call them heirloom varieties. The only one that really produces a fruit is the Yukon Golds, and they'll produce a little apple-looking fruit on it. Be very, very careful. Those are very poisonous. But once you see flowers, you will see there is potato. Now you said, honey,
it's right at your knee.
Right at my knee?
It'll be right here, but you'd have to dig it. You'd have to dig it up. It's right here.
She said there was one that was exposed. I'm not going to dig it up. But this plant already
That's a red potato.
Already has some babies on it, huh?
It has a red potato that's about that big.
Yeah. So let's see, what else can we talk about? Yeah, and the leaves on these are nightshades. Nightshades are your potatoes, your tomatoes, and your peppers, because they get frosted and killed, and amongst other reasons.
And you know when to dig up potatoes is when the leaves turn brown and die.
Well, that's when you absolutely can. But you can. We've done it before.
We've done it before that, but usually you want to wait, because then they get big.
You want them to get as fully developed as possible. Oh, let's see, what else do we have here?
Bunch of beets. The other beets that we are letting go to flower is down here by the hookah bound.
All right, we got some of our...
These are sugar pumpkins.
Sugar pumpkins. So let's talk about the gourd plants. So you've got multiple kinds of gourd plants we call squash. You got a summer squash that people like to eat when they're young and soft, and then you've got a winter variety that you let fully mature. Both are kind of the same thing. You could take summer squash and you could eat it in the winter, but it's just not quite the same because of the variety that we've chosen. This is what we like with this, and this is what we like with that. But what you want to do is let's talk propagation here, because what I harp on in so many of my community meetings is that people need to work together, because it's a whole lot easier for you to maintain the variety, the genetic specialness of a particular variety, if all you have is that one type. Squash are really, really bad about being cross-pollinated very easily by the pollinators. And you will not maintain a good, true variety of any squash plant if you have more than one blooming at the same time. It's a guaranteed cross-pollination. Now, does that mean that the fruit itself is not edible? Oh, sure you can. We did it one year. We saved pumpkin seed. Off of a jack-o'-lantern that we grew that happened to grow next to a crookneck yellow squash. And the next year we got pumpkins that were not deep orange, but a light orange, not quite a yellow, but a light orange-ish. And it was like a big bell-looking, we called them squashkins, because it looked like literally halfway between the crookneck squash and a pumpkin. Not big and round, a little knob on the top, and bigger than a crookneck. So you got something weird. And you know,
they were good.
Yeah, we ate them. They were edible, but it wasn't a pumpkin and it wasn't a crookneck. And we had to essentially cut the meat open, cut the squash open to figure out what it is. But with all your gourd family, you're going to want to let the fruit go to full development and let it get full size. So normally a crookneck squash we might pick when it's young and tender, but if you want to save seed on it, it needs to get full size. Okay, those seeds need to develop and everything, just like you would with a pumpkin or any of the winter squash, the acorns, the butternuts, the buttercups, pick your gourd variety. So here's the technique you're going to need to use. You absolutely, imperatively have to use this if you're going to maintain genetic stability and seed safe with multiple gourds. And that is, you're going to have to be earlier than the girls, be earlier than the bees. Pardon me. So normally you'd have a farmer that has one big field of nothing but pumpkins, or a big field of nothing but squash, and you didn't have to worry about it. You could go pick out one in the middle of it and you knew you had a good seed base. But if you've got a bunch of them like we're going to have around here, you're going to need to isolate those flowers. So you're going to be earlier than the bees. You've got to be earlier and busier than the bees, and you've got to know the difference between a male flower that does not have the fruit underneath it and the female flower. And then you're going to have to take a male flower, in the morning, because they bloom early in the morning. Sometimes before dawn they'll start to open their flowers up, and you want to be out here before that happens, before a bee can get in there. And you're going to find a male flower, and you're going to take the pollen stem out, and then you're going to go into the female flower, and you're going to do the pollination and put it on the stamen. So you're going to get the pollen in there, and then you have to either fold the flower up so that no bee can get in there, or put a bag or something on it until it's cycled and the flower dies off, which is a day or so later. Then you're definitely going to want to mark that fruit so that you know which one to harvest specifically for seed. Huge, huge, huge. It's going to take a lot of work to do that, but you can be done a few minutes at a time every few days. And I'll have probably 15 varieties of gourds of winter squash, summer squash, and whatnot. I'm going to have a whole lot of varieties this year. So what we're really talking about is maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 mornings where I just get out here, come out here and do a quick pollination, cover it and label it, doesn't take a lot of time, but I got to be on it. I got to be on it and be thinking about it, because I got to catch it. If I don't, the seed will not be savable. Let me get up here. Over here we got a lot of our carrots. You can see are finally coming up, and I'm hoping that the soil has been amended deep enough so that I can get a good root on them. We're going to have to find out how well it goes. But over here is my other batch of beets, and as you can see, come on in here, you can see we're starting to get, or we're going to get some flowers on there, and they're going to be little things. You'll see it again in future videos, but I've separated and put this batch over here. Hopefully these will kind of pollinate. Those will pollinate over there, and the ones I've got over there will pollinate. They'll do pretty good, hopefully. Cross your fingers. If not, then I'll have to revert to just doing one kind of beet so I can isolate it, because you really need nearly a half a mile between these is what is recommended.
And we got yarrow.
Oh yeah,
So
I forgot all about that. Walked right by it. So go ahead, you talk about it.
we got the yarrow here. That is another medicinal plant. Off
And
the
it's
top
cool.
of my head, I do not remember what it does.
Well, the flowers,
But
the leaf, and the stems, all the upper part of the plant are used in teas.
there.
You'll have to look up the specific benefits from it. But this is something that we saved seed on up in Montana. And as soon as I got here, I spread a little seed, and there you go. Let's see, let's talk about the borascas down here. So I've got, as you can see, they're really starting to look good. They're coming up very nicely up there, out through there. And I've got 5 different kinds of kale. I got some broccoli. I got several kinds of cabbage in here. More broccoli, more cabbage. I got some Brussels sprouts way up there. I've got a whole mess of them. And the reason I put 4 rows of them here all the way up there is so that that piece of remay, if you didn't see it, but we got a piece of remay that we're going to use to cover all of these, simply so that we can try and keep the cabbage moth type little caterpillars off of it and keep them from eating the leaves up so bad. Because I'm not spraying it. I'm not going to spray it with it, but I want to cover it. So they are all lined up and doing nicely. Let's see. Shall we go? Let's go over here. There's my favorite kale. That's scarlet kale. The darker the vegetable, the more colorful the vegetable, the more nutrition it has in it. Look at the butterfly. All right, so this is a blue Scotch borasca, and yes, it is blooming, and we do have some of the Siberian kale next to it, but the 2 crossed or just make a different kind of kale. It will be edible, and I don't really care.
Tree.
I got a piece of that asparagus in my throat. But it's worth saving the seed on. I've set up another patch of carrots, and
Oh, would you look at this, folks? A 4-leaf.
you found a 4-leaf.
There was a 4. Oh no, it looked like a 4 because of
No.
the split there.
No.
It looked like a 4, but it is.
All right,
We got some huge clovers. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Squirrel moment.
Squirrel moment. How are we doing on battery? 'Cause
Battery looks like it's doing fine. We're an hour and 5 minutes in.
I knew it was going to be a long one. Stick with us, folks. So up in here we got 3 kinds of cucumbers. Okay, we've got some pickling cukes, we got some salad cukes, and we got lemon cukes. We consider them all pickling because you can pickle any one that you want. But here's the thing: with the cukes, you're generally pulling them before they're fully developed. You're getting the young, tender fruit. If you're going to save seed, you want to isolate. Really want to isolate one variety. Now, you can do that in your garden by having them further apart, and you don't need to really be a quarter-mile away. You just need to have a on the other end of your garden. So we've got 3 different kinds of cucumbers way down there in the field where we got them separated, so I think we'll be fine on keeping the genetic viability there. You don't need nearly as much space. With like tomatoes. Tomatoes is really easy. You know, you squeeze the seeds out and you do the water separation for saving your seeds. Many of you are familiar with that. I've got well, it's on the old channel. We'll have to redo the tomato thing. Tomatoes, did she get you?
No.
Okay, I mean, because they're flying. The girls are wanting some food. So here's the thing. Tomatoes, cucumbers, just like squash, you know, let the fruit get big and completely developed, and then you can take out the seeds. All you got to do is take the seeds out and let them dry. Put them on a paper towel, send them away, make sure you write what they are, because we got a couple of bags of surprise seeds that we didn't label. But they're very easy to do. You just want to make sure you got some separation. Green beans are very easy for seed saving. Generally what I'll do is, for you to truly make sure that you have your genetic viability, they generally say keep the plants more than 10 feet away in rows. This isn't quite 10 foot in the rows, but what you can do is, like, I've got these 2 rows here and those 2 rows here. I could maybe save some seed from these plants and then save some seed from these plants that are far enough apart. And all you need to do is not pick the beans when they're young and tender, and just let them fully mature so that you can get the full seed in the full pod. Very easy to do. Very easy to do. So let's go through here. This is the Egyptian walking onion, and it's doing its little flower pod up here, but as you notice, it's not a flower per se. This one just happens to reproduce baby onionettes, a whole lot of little onions that will get in here. And then it's called a walking onion because eventually this stalk will fall over, and these little onions will fall over and land over here and start growing. Other onions, and I think these are a big sweet yellow onion right here. This kind of onion will actually put out a flower, and it'll be a big bulbish flower with a whole lot of itty bitty little flowers in it, and they'll make a little brown seed pod where there'll be 2 or 3 of these little itty bitty teeny weeny black seeds. You'll use the gold panning method, which I'll get to at the very end. Don't let me forget that, because I'm likely to. You'll use that to collect the seed on it. And if you have seed is the best way to do onions. You kind of have to. Yes, you could let the onion divide itself, which it has. Like these were in here from last year. This one was 1 onion, and it split to get 2 on it. You could do that like you do with a garlic, because it'll get essentially the same thing as a clove at the bottom. But you really want to do onion seeds. You want to save your seeds, and you need to separate your onion types. And I forget the distance on it. I really don't remember how far they're supposed to be away. It's not that far. You can do it like kind of like green beans. I think it's 10, 15, 20 feet, so that the flowers stay separated. But you definitely need to carry those, because you can go from seed to fully developed onion in 1 year if you plant the seed in January-ish by doing a seed tray, sprinkling the seeds on top of them, setting them in a windowsill somewhere through January and February, and let the little shoots, the little onion sets come up, and then you can literally plant those little itty-bitty thin hair-like ones in the dirt. And over summer, if you get a long growing season, you'll get a full-size onion out of it. So it's very possible. These we purchased from the farm supply store where we get our chicken feed, and they were onion sets, and those are generally, you know, little onions about the size of your thumb, and you just stick them in. That was the way for me to bypass the fact that my seed was not sprouting because it was too old. It was getting too old. All right, so let's see. Oh, what do we got here? We got chamomile.
German chamomile.
German chamomile, and look how big it's gotten, and it's getting its shoot. So eventually each one of these will shoot up, and it will put a whole lot of little white flowers. Now, if you're wanting chamomile tea, very good, very good, very good stuff. You want to be able to pick those flowers when they're young. So what will happen is this thing will start to bush out, and there's going to be lots of them, hundreds of little flowers. And T or I will come out here one day and say, oh, it's time to pick them, and we'll go through here, and we'll just catch the flower in between our fingers and start snapping off the flowers, and we'll, like a comb, we'll just pop, 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 and we'll put them in a bag or something, and then we'll put them somewhere to dry, wherever we're going to let them dry. And if we're going to save seed on it,
Battery's getting low.
yeah, if we're going to save seed on it, what we'll do is let the flower go fully developed, and before it can drop the seed, we'll take the flower off and catch it so that we can catch the seed. We need to pause. All right, we're going to pause and then charge the battery up, and we'll come back later.